Another complete disregard for humanity. This one brought to you by Fox's Jesse Waters. Here is, he's come up with a plan to deal with people who are unhoused.
Oh, great.
Gavin's now at maybe midfield, but he has to understand homelessness isn't about lack of affordable housing.
I'll pause it for 1 second. We should say that the right wing is really uptight about Gavin Newsom because he embarrassed, I guess, Sean Hannity the other night on his program. And they are anticipating, maybe a 2028 matchup or the potential that, who knows? I don't know what the percentage is of Joe Biden actually being the nominee in 2024, all things considered. But if there's a 5% chance that he won't be, Gavin Newsom is going to attempt to be that person, or, one of the people attempting to do that person. And so here's Jesse Waters carrying the water for a guy named Michael Schellenberger, who we see on Twitter promoting a some type of don't censor us movement that you got to buy tickets to and go to a live show in London. That's the way this movement is starting. But he also is famous for saying that housing's not going to help people who are unhoused.
Yeah.
Coercion and force. Is
right. So food is not going to help people who are hungry. Water is not going to help people who are thirsty. And homes are not going to help people who are without homes.
And here's Jesse Waters.
It must just be about their personal pathology.
Gavin's now at maybe midfield, but he has to understand homelessness isn't about lack of affordable housing. It's about drug addicts that want to wander around and live in tents on the sidewalk. And so you can't coddle antisocial behavior. You can't subsidize antisocial behavior. You have to stigmatize it. You can't celebrate people with purple hair, with nose rings, 4 kids with 4 different men who are dressed like trash, and make them out to be some sort of cutting-edge heroes. You have to call them what they are. These are people that have failed in life, and they're on their deathbed. And if we're not honest about it, we're never going to fix this problem.
First off, if what he was saying was true, now it is the case that there may be significant drug or substance abuse problems, and it is the case that there may be some significant mental health problems.
Yeah.
Some of which could have been present prior to them losing housing. Many of which developed surely because you need to cope with not having any place to live. But even if we were to stipulate that what he's saying is true, that these are all just people who want to be out on the street, roaming around, living in tents, what makes him think that stigmatizing them is going to in any way...
Shame.
Right. We can shame them on top of all this. I mean, the bottom line is, regardless of how much you think substance abuse or mental health plays into the question of homelessness in this country, the primary vehicle or the easiest way to begin to address that and provide services to address those issues is if someone has an address and they have the ability to return there every night. And we've seen this. I mean, it is...
in Houston, they experimented with Housing First programs starting in 2011. They have cut the number of homeless people in Houston by 63% since that time period. We had someone from the program, and I'm blanking on the name of it
was the Houston Housing Coalition.
Houston Housing Coalition, back earlier on when I started. So it's just factually incorrect.
Yeah, it's a public housing, or it's a public health issue, not an issue that can be dealt with shame or cops, which is like kind of what Waters doesn't want to say. But also, what's cheaper than rent and long-term mental health care is drugs.
Yeah. And, there are a lot of people who fall into that kind of situation who, because of the increase in the incredible desperation that they feel by being unhoused, sometimes fall into drugs when they previously weren't using drugs because sometimes it's like the only way you get to sleep at night, and you are in an incredibly anxious and precarious mental health situation and financial one. And the idea, I mean, I wish Jesse Waters would and he never would have a conversation with someone who was unhoused, because I don't think they'd say that they feel warm and cozy about being on the street. I'd imagine because we live in a capitalist society that a lot of them do feel a ton of internalized shame, a ton of it already, because of that mentality that he puts out there. Like, they just need a little bit more shame. What would that do?
Yeah, it's not just about housing prices. Like, we do need a whole bunch of holistic things to care about people. Like we said, like long-term mental health. But like, the addiction is a public health issue. But this is just an apology for rentiers who control the housing stock in every community in this country.
And it's also, though, it also is a way to make sure, because the fact is that if you were to provide housing, low-cost housing, no-cost housing, for people who are, suffering from homelessness, it is to them, and it is, frankly, a slippery slope to having to provide other services if that is what your agenda is. There's really it's binary in the sense that we're either going to commit ourselves to dealing with these problems, or we're going to commit ourselves to saying these people are subhuman and don't have really, it is not worth our effort. And the way that you do that is to, of course, to say that they're, life's losers or whatever it was that Waters is going on there. And understand the nuanced versions of these, they fall on that binary too. It's just that they're just not as explicit about being in the Waters camp. But once you say there is no sort of like, that providing services and housing to these people is not going to be effective, you're essentially on that other side of the binary. I have no doubt that there are folks who are homeless, either in part because they had, some form of mental illness, or have developed more severe mental illness because they're on the streets and it's being untreated, and there's no mechanism to treat them because you don't even know where they are night to night.
And the stress of being on the street exacerbates mental health conditions.
Without a doubt. And that they may not even be in a position to make the choices that would get them help at this stage.
Yeah.
And that is that is a dilemma, I think, that we have yet to reckon with. But that cohort of people who are homeless is, it's certainly not the majority. And even if it was 51%, we need to address the 49%, in that instance. Like, it does not diminish the idea that there are people who just could not afford it, or ran into some substance abuse problem and then could not afford it, or whatever it is. We are either going to address this problem and address all of the people that we can help immediately and easily, the 60 some odd percent who were helped by Houston's program. And then we can address what we do with the 40%. But if we use that, 40% as a cudgel to not provide, resources and help for the 60%,
rent
this
relief
is what we're going to get. Yeah.
I mean, and it's everybody. I can't, this is a very wide spread issue. It's not just houseless people that suffer from the impossibility of paying rent in this country. And this is just Waters is obscuring, demonizing homeless people, the actual culprits of this.
And it's not just houseless people that experience addiction. Like, right.
You just don't notice it when people are in their houses.
Yeah, right. If Rush Limbaugh, or if Jesse Waters, his theory was correct, Rush Limbaugh would have been out on the streets because he was addicted to drugs at that point in his life. But he's rich, so he can hide it.